I remember 2014 like it was yesterday. The internet was incredibly different than it is now. It was a place where a man was free to say the N word and no one cared. There was no horror, there was no dismay. You could actually post a meme with the N word on it and people would shrug. Unless, of course, it was used in an offensive manner, like you would actually call someone that, and in that case, you would get muted. And once you got muted by a lot of people, eventually you had to change your behavior because you realized that if you want to interact with other humans, you gotta be more polite. But that was the internet of the time, and censorship was unthinkable. Sure, there were many forums and there were many places that did practice certain forms of restrictions, but it was usually against scamming, botting, spamming, impersonating, and there were some places where the moderators would go on a power trip and they would say if you disagree with them, they would ban you. And of course, there were many subcultures and many places where they would say, in this place we talk about video games, any conversations that do not have to do with video games are banned. So that was the internet, and slowly but surely censorship starts happening. And many people were horrified by this. They couldn't believe it because the mindset and the culture of the 90s was that free speech is a human right. So having your text just be banned from the internet was viewed as a violation of someone's human rights. It wasn't something illegal, but it was something unthinkable. Like, it was like saying the N-word now. It was something very rude, something very disturbing, something very un-American, because America at the time wasn't about diversity, inclusivity, and equity. It was about freedom and liberty. This is something that's not even mentioned now, but like the American hawk, the American eagle was being promoted. Now, whether or not that is the case, and whether or not censorship did happen at the time is different, but like the most amount of people, especially people from Europe, would view America as this bastion of liberty, freedom, and democracy. So to see American companies engaging in censorious practice was bewildering. And it started slowly. It started with, okay, well, we're going to censor people who are being naughty. So, like, if you're threatening someone, if you're mean to someone, we have now Trust and Safety Council. We keep everyone safe from naughty words on the internet. And that slowly over time started expanding. It started banning words, slurs, and then it moved to political ideas, political concept, medical information. And you guys know how the internet is today, where there are certain topics and certain subjects that are definitely taboo. Now, the interesting thing is that many people at the time would say, well, my private company can do whatever it wants, and the government is basically tied. Like they would love to step in, of course, and they would love to tell these companies to stop censoring people. It's just that America is a free market capitalist society, and there is nothing you can do against these companies. Turns out that with the Twitter files being exposed, it wasn't just that the government was telling these private companies what to do, but it was also that they were working hand in hand with these companies to harvest information and data from private citizens. The Supreme Court of the United States deemed that some of these practices are even illegal. Sorry, not illegal, but unconstitutional. And that's what happened, right? But I still remember the chant of many, my private company can do whatever it wants. Interestingly enough, how the law wasn't used to crack down on American companies, it is used to crack down on TikTok. And I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of TikTok. I mean, TikTok is a Chinese company. China doesn't allow American companies within China, so things like YouTube, Facebook, Google are being suppressed in China, but TikTok is allowed in the United States. And there are many concerning things with TikTok regarding privacy, but also things such as the algorithm. I have mentioned this before in many videos, and I'll mention it again. If you log on TikTok from China, you're going to be met with a lot of wholesome videos. How to do carpentry, how to invest into a business, how to learn about economics. Like things that are not just wholesome, but they can definitely enrich an individual. Meanwhile, in the United States, you get fat acceptance, you get LGBT right. I mean, the whole libs of TikTok on Twitter has become famous not by creating stuff, but by simply taking the insane, just batshit crazy videos from TikTok and showing them to the public, to a larger audience, and the audience would watch them because they wouldn't believe the craziness. They just wouldn't believe that a teacher would say something like this, or an actual human being would have these thoughts about something. So for those of you who don't remember, Bin Laden's letter, the one after 9/11, was trending on TikTok. Like, all of a sudden, all these people were enjoying it. And, the question has to be with the algorithm, because we know that these platforms aren't like the phone company or the mail service, or that the algorithms actually care what the user wants to see. We know that with American companies, it's all about what the platform wants you to see. Like in the case of Google, they want you to see authoritative sources, so you're going to be bombarded with the mainstream media. Even if the mainstream media makes a video that has barely enough traction, and you have an independent content creator that has millions of subscribers, none of that matters. The algorithm will show you what the company wants you to see. And I assume it's very similar with TikTok. And the reason that I find this hilarious is that, number one, the government is trying to crack down on TikTok. So they didn't try to crack down on any of the social media companies when they were censoring people, weren't trying to crack down on any of the social media companies when they were harvesting information from people, but instead they're cracking down on TikTok. Interesting. Now, also interesting is that TikTok doesn't want the algorithm to fall into the hands of the United States, claiming that the Chinese government would not allow it. So the Chinese government has made it clear that it would not permit a divestment of the recommendation engine that is the key to success of TikTok in the United States. Like the United States, China regulates the export of certain technology originating there. China export control rules the information processing technology such as personal interactive data algorithms. China's official news agency has reported that under these rules, any sale of recommendation algorithms developed by engineers employed by ByteDance subsidiaries in China, including for TikTok, would require a government license. So in other words, the Chinese doesn't want the American people to see the algorithm that was suggesting video to their children. Fascinating. Now, regarding the ban for TikTok, I actually looked at it. They're not going to get banned in the sense of the word that people think. They have 1 year, and I believe an extension of 3 months, in order to try and sell the company, including, I believe, the algorithm, to an American institution. And I think like Microsoft was interested in buying. Personally, I do not think that this change of management is going to be any different for users. I mean, okay, China is not going to harvest your data now, Microsoft will. China will not try to indoctrinate your mind, Microsoft will. Like from a user perspective, I think things would have remained the same. The only difference, of course, is if you're an American patriot, right? And you like Bill Gates more than you like Chimpanzee. But if they don't manage to sell the company within the allocated time of 1 year and 3 months, they will just be banned from the apps. So my understanding is that Apple and the other phone companies, Google Play Store, isn't going to allow TikTok over there, but people can still use it. Like, it's not going to be banned in the same way that ChatGPT is banned in Italy. That's my understanding from reading it. And of course, TikTok is going to try to sue the US government in order to try to call this law unconstitutional over freedom of speech. They have tried this in the past, and I believe it has worked. But since then, the legislators from the United States have drafted a new law. They looked at the holes and the complaints that the Supreme Court had with the previous one. So they're going to try this again. And I assume that even if TikTok is going to be successful, they are not going to manage to stay to remain like this for long, because the legislators are going to attempt to ban it for a third time. The reason for this is that most of the people in the United States are in favor of the TikTok ban. The percentage has dropped significantly over the fact that the previous TikTok ban came into a legislation that was overstretching things and would have allowed the government a lot of authoritarian powers over the internet. So most people who actually read the bill, they were like, yeah, we're not going to support this because it's called Ban the TikTok Bill, but it does a lot more than that. So we do not want to support it. And the percentage of people that wanted TikTok to get banned has dropped simply because they do not trust the government. They do not trust that they will draft a bill specifically to target TikTok. But when it comes to most people, they agree that, yeah, like TikTok is a concerning app that does harvest information from users, and The algorithm is also concerning in the content that it provides. And in the future, I do believe that, yeah, like the United States is going to do its best in order to suppress it. I don't think it can outright ban it due to the Constitution, but still. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.